Hello everyone, my name is Kathy. I am one of the developers of a new trading card game that is coming to Kickstarter June 21st, 2023, and that trading card game is called Flawed. We are very excited to bring this game to you. It's been in development for 4 years now, and we're finally ready to release it to the public. Right now on our website, we have a free print and play that you can download from the homepage. If you go to flawedcardgame.com, on the homepage there's a link. You can download a PDF that you can print, cut out, and learn how to play the game for free from your home before the game launches in June. And so you can use this video to learn how to play the game. This demo that I'm showing you today is actually using the exact same decks that are in that downloadable PDF file. So without further ado, let's show you how to play. This game is very customizable. Our game has cards that are inherently flawed, which is in part where the name of the game comes from. Each base card has to be completed with a clear essence overlay card. And so when you purchase the game, these cardboard base cards will come in booster packs, and they have rarities. They have, common, uncommon, rare, and epic rare. The essence cards will be sold more in a living card game style, where you will purchase a package that has play sets of all of the essences all at once. So the essences are not collectible in and of themselves, but the base cards are, and they do have their own rarities and will be collectible. So each player will design their own deck, and they will also have to design how they want their individual cards to play. In my hand, I have an example here of a card called Underwater Spearman, and two different ways that that card can be built. So in my left hand here, we have an Underwater Spearman with infused water essence, and that essence gives this extra text on here of event-bound evasion 1 and evasion 1. And we have another Underwater Spearman here with essence of water and earth. And this doesn't have extra text on the card, but it does have the two different essence icons there, whereas this Underwater Spearman only has one. And you'll see why that's pretty powerful when we start to learn to play. So this is just a quick example of how a player can have Underwater Spearman, and they can have two different Underwater Spearmans in their deck if they want, or they can build them all the same. But the game is incredibly customizable. In set 1, there are 148, I think, base cards, and then there are 80 essences. When you do the math, it comes out to just shy of 7,000 possible combinations in just set 1. So it's a very customizable card game, and each player will come to the table with a 50-card deck, and then each player will have a shrine, so a total of 51 cards. In this game, there are 6 factions: fire, light, air, water, earth, and dark, which, if you're paying attention, that spells flawed. And each player will choose a shrine that represents one of those 6 factions. Here we have an earth shrine, the Great Oak, and a dark shrine, Hall of Shadows. In order to win, each player is trying to deal damage enough to destroy the opponent's shrine. So in this example, we have the Great Oak with a health of 25. And we have Hall of Shadows with health of 19. So if the Earth player wants to win, they have to deal 19 damage to Hall of Shadows. If the Dark player wants to win, they have to deal 25 damage to the Great Oak. So I'd like to start off by showing you what is printed on the card. The first line of text up here, Underwater Spearman, that is the name of the base card that's in the back. And then that second line of text there, Infused Water Essence, that is the name of the essence that's on top. Underneath, you have the card type. Units are similar to, in other games, they might be like creatures. Units are, they come into play and they stay in play, and they can attack the opposing shrine. They can defend incoming attacks. There are also events, such as this one right here, Planting. An event card, you play the card, you do what it says, and then after it finishes resolving, the card goes to the discard pile. We call it the dead zone as well. So that's events. And then we have items. Items can be linked to units or linked to structures. So this is a lance. You would kind of link it onto a unit that you have in play, and that would make the linked unit stronger, gain whatever ability is on that card. And then we also have structures. Right here, Pillory is an example of a structure. Structures stay in play. They themselves do not inherently attack unless the card says otherwise. They have different abilities, but these stay in play. In addition, every single card has the ability to be a resource on the bottom. So this is a game where you are paying to play your cards by using resources. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So each card has the ability to be a resource if you play it upside down for its resource value on the bottom. Or you can play it for the cost shown on the right-hand side of the card there. So if For example, if a player wanted to actually play the event planting, they would have to be able to pay 2 total resources, 1 of anything and 1 earth resource, for a total of 2 resources. That would be if you wanted to actually play planting. Or you could play infused earth essence, which is free, and then you would have this earth essence in your resource zone. More on that in a little bit. I'll show you how to do that. And then the last thing I want to show you is the stat bar that's along the side here. The speed I will address as it comes up in the game because we do use speed for a couple different things. Power is how much damage a unit deals during combat, and then health is how much damage a card can take before it itself is destroyed. Alrighty, so at the start of the game, each player shuffles their deck and draws 6 cards, which I've already kind of done that for you here. And now I'm going to go through our mulligan rule. In a card game, a mulligan is how you set up your hand to be beneficial like early game. So you're not just stuck with whatever random 6 cards you draw. Right at the beginning of the game, you are able to make choices about that first opening hand to best craft your early gameplay. That way you're not getting stuck with a bunch of cards that cost like 6 and 7 that you can't even use on turn 1, and you can kind of craft the best starting hand possible. So each player starts by drawing 6 cards, and then we have this keep card that's added to your hand. What's printed on the keep card doesn't really matter. It's mostly just art for flavor. But on the bottom, you'll see it says cards to return on the left and then cards to keep on the right. So each player is going to take their 6 cards and add the keep card as card number 7. And then that player will look through their hand privately, not showing their opponent, and they'll place that keep card like this. So if I decide, I don't really want to keep planting in my opening hand, but I'm fine with keeping all of these, then I'll put cards I want to return to my deck to the left of the keep card, and then cards I want to keep in my hand for the game on the right of the keep card. You'll notice when I do that and I put the cards kind of like in a stack like this, now the card that I want to get rid of is on the top of the pile, and the cards I want to keep in my hand are on the bottom. Then I will put my hand in a stack like this to show to my opponent that I have made my mulligan choice and I'm ready to start the game, but my opponent doesn't know where I put the keep card. So that won't inform my opponent's decision. And then at the same time, your opponent's going to be looking through their hand. Let's say this dark player doesn't necessarily want to keep the Abyss and Siege Master, so we're going to put those to the left of the keep card and the rest to the right. And then similarly, the dark player will put their hand face down like that to show that they're ready to start. Now each player reveals from the top of their deck all of the cards until they hit the keep card. So the green player, the earth player revealed planting and then stopped, and then the dark player revealed their 2 cards and then stopped when they hit the keep card. Now each player adds up the total speed of the cards they mulliganed away. The dark player has mulliganed away a speed of 4, and the earth player has mulliganed away a speed of 0. Whichever player mulligans away the highest speed gets to take the first action of turn 1. So in this game, deciding who goes first is not random. You're not rolling a die to find out who goes first. It's part of your strategy. So choosing which cards to mulligan away is also, wagering, do you really want to take that first action of turn 1? So in this example, dark is going to go first. The first thing that happens after this point is each player draws from their deck to replace the cards they wanted to mulligan away. So the earth player will draw 1 new card to replace that planting, and the dark player will draw 2 new cards to replace the 2 they mulliganed away. And then these cards that were mulliganed away get shuffled back into the deck. I personally really like this design because it means that the cards I mulliganed away aren't destined to be stuck in the bottom of my deck for the rest of the game. I still have a shot at getting those back a little bit later. Alrighty, that's all that's done with the keep cards. After you've finished the mulligan, just for the start of the game, those can go to the side, and each player has their starting hand. So I'm just going to keep these kind of to the side face up. And for demonstration purposes, I'm going to be playing as each player, kind of like going back and forth. So since dark won the mulligan, they're going to go first. In this game, the turn is shared. If it's easier to use the word round, some people have been saying, okay, we're in round 1. In the official rule book, we say turn. So turn 1 is shared by both players. And within turn 1, each player chooses an action one at a time, and they ping pong back and forth, choosing one action back and forth until each player passes to go to the next turn. So here I have a list of the possible actions that you can choose during a turn. Play a resource, play a card, activate an ability, declare an attack, prepare, and pass. So on this first turn, I'm going to show you how to do most of these things. So since dark is going first, they're going to choose play a resource. Play a resource is once per player per turn. So here in turn 1, each the earth and the dark player can choose to play a resource, but they each can only do it once. So the dark player is going to choose to play a resource, and let's see, I'll have them play this resource here. So when you're choosing to play a card from your hand as a resource, all you do is select the card and put it into your resource zone. Your resource zone is going to be closest to you. We're imagining that the dark player is sitting over here on the right side of the screen and the earth player is sitting over here on the left side of the screen. So the resource zone is here closest to the player, and then the combat zone is like here in the center. So playing this as a resource, I'm going to take this card, turn it upside down, and put it into the resource zone. The reason why this card is upside down is, like we said before, each card can be a resource or it can be a card. So we put it into play upside down so that if it accidentally slides up here, you remember, oh, it's upside down, that's a resource, put it back where it goes. So this resource right here can generate 2 different colors, dark or fire. All right, now we're gonna go over to the earth player's action. The earth player is also going to choose play a resource for their action, and they are going to choose this life cycle warden. Life cycle warden has an ability on it here. You see how these abilities all have little letters and circles in front of them? Because every card can be played in the resource zone or in combat, the lines of text are specific depending on where that card is, like which zone that card is in. So this life cycle warden enters exhausted if the card is entering the resource zone only, because that little R says this text only applies in the resource zone. And then similarly, we have a line of text that is only active on the stack, and we have a line of text that's only active when the card is in play in the combat zone. That's what the C is for. So since we're playing this as a resource, this specific card is going to enter exhausted. And this one also makes 2 different colors, air or earth. I do want to point out here in our game, air is gray, and gray is actually a defined color in our game. In a lot of popular trading card games out there, gray is used as colorless, as a placeholder for a, whatever you blank color. But gray is actually a defined color in our game. So this is going to come into the play exhausted, which means turned 90 degrees sideways. In our game, when a card is exhausted, that means that benefit, that resource, that card has already been used for the turn and it can't be used until the next turn. All right, next is going to be the dark player's action. The dark player is going to choose the play a card action. In order to play a card, you select a card from your hand. The dark player is going to play Ruffian. In order to play a card, you have to be able to pay the cost in the corner. So I have to be able to exhaust 1 dark resource in order to play Ruffian. So here I have my dark or fire resource. Each turn I can choose which one I want it to be. So this turn I'm going to exhaust this and say I'm making it dark, and I'm going to play Ruffian. Ruffian's a unit, so it comes into my combat zone. Yay, dark player, you have your first unit. Now, for the earth player, they are going to choose the prepare action. Prepare is once per turn, period. You'll notice player resource says once per player per turn, and then prepare is just once per turn. This means that only 1 player each turn can choose prepare. If the earth player is choosing prepare right now, then the dark player cannot choose prepare until another turn starts. So right now we're still in turn 1. Prepare is draw a card, and all of your future actions for the current turn must be pass. So the earth player is going to draw a card into their hand, and every time the earth player takes an action for the rest of turn 1, they have to choose pass. That's what the prepare action is. Now, for the dark player. In this game, you can attack with a unit the same turn that you play a unit. So the dark player is going to choose the declare attack action. The first thing that the dark player does is they state, I would like to declare an attack. Then a stack is generated. We're not going to use this stack right now. We'll use it later on in this tutorial. So I'm going to skip that part for now. If the earth player says, I don't want to play anything right now, you can go ahead and attack, then the dark player is going to choose 1 unit. I'm going to choose Ruffian because it's the only unit I have in play. They exhaust that unit. A unit has to be able to exhaust in order to attack. And they declare where they intend their damage to go. Now you can select any structure or any exhausted unit to send your damage towards. So this Ruffian right now only has 1 legal target to send their damage at, and this Ruffian is going to say, I intend my damage to go at the shrine because it's a structure that the opponent controls. Now after my attack is declared, if the opponent had a defender, they could defend the attack. We're going to show how that works later, but for now this attack is going to go undefended and the damage is going to go through. This Ruffian has a power of, oh, it's kind of slid out of place there. A power of 3. So we're going to put 3 damage on the Great Oak. Sad day for the Earth player, 3 damage, but that's okay. We've got 25 total, so there's still some time. All right, now for the Earth player's action, they have to pass because they chose prepare, so that's that rule. For the dark player, there's nothing else the dark player is going to do for this turn. They're also going to choose pass. So whenever all players choose pass back to back, that signifies the end of a turn. So turn 1 is now over. To start turn 2 and every turn going forward, 3 things happen. First, each player draws a card. Second, any card in play that is exhausted recovers, which means any card that is turned 90 degrees to the side turns back right side up. So this is going to recover upside down because it's an essence, and this card's going to recover upside down because it's currently an essence or resource. The last thing that happens is you have to calculate what we call initiative. Initiative is to determine, after turn 1, who takes the first action of every subsequent turn. So at the start of turn 2, who has the highest initiative score? Who's going to take the first action for turn 2? Initiative is the sum of the speed of all of your units in play, plus any initiative bonuses that might be in play right now. So right now, the dark player has an initiative of 2, because they have 2 speed on their units in play, and the earth player has an initiative of 0. So the dark player is going to get to take the first action of turn 2. In the event that there's a tie, whoever took the first action of the turn prior maintains initiative and continues to go first for the next turn. So the dark player is going to have the first action. Now with these actions, you can take these actions in whatever order you want. You don't necessarily have to start from the top and go down. You also don't have to take every action. For example, last turn, no one took the activate an ability action. Some of these actions can be taken more than once as well. We mentioned that play a resource and prepare can only be done once, but all of these other actions you can take multiple times if you want. And the actions with a star after them, a stack is generated after those actions, but we'll get more into that in a second. So for turn 2, action 1, the dark player is going to choose the attack action, and they're going to attack with Ruffian. Ruffian has a special ability that says if this card attacks as the first action of the turn, it gains +1 power until the end of the turn. So this is the first action of turn 2, and we're attacking. So this Ruffian is going to attack at the opposing shrine for 4 damage. We go and put 4 damage counters on there. Now it's the earth player's action. The earth player is going to choose to play a resource, and I'm going to have them play this resource here, and it makes a water resource. Now for the dark player's action, I'm also going to have them play a resource, and let's see, we're going to play another one of these dual dark and fire resources into the resource zone. Now for the earth player's action, they are going to choose the play a card action. This player is going to play, let's go right here, Underwater Spearman. Underwater Spearman, to play this card, costs 2. 1 of anything and 1 water. So we have our 1 water here. We're going to exhaust that card to show that we're using its resource for the turn. And then this will be my 1 of anything. So a total of 2, and at least 1 of them is blue. And then I play Underwater Spearman into the combat zone. Now it's the dark player's turn. The dark player is going to, let me think what they're going to do. We're going to play a card as well. I'm going to choose to exhaust this dark resource to play Pillory. Pillory costs 1 dark. Pillory is a structure, so this is going to come into play and just kind of stay in the combat zone there. Now we're going to get into some nitty-gritty details about some gameplay here, but I honestly think learning these sorts of rules through a Learn to Play video is the best time to do it. The earth player is going to choose to attack. They're going to choose attack as their action for the turn. Remember earlier I said the first thing you do is say, I want to attack. I'm going to choose the attack action. But you don't actually say who you're attacking with. First, a stack is generated at speed 0. Whenever a stack is generated, that means that the opposing player can place an activated ability or an event on the stack as long as that activated ability or event has a speed of 1 or higher. So the earth player is choosing to declare an attack. The dark player is going to respond and use Pillory. Pillory has a speed of 1, which means I can interrupt these actions that have stars after them. I can interrupt my opponent's action by using these because they're faster. So this activated ability says, it's got the little arrow there, so exhaust, turn this card sideways. Target unit in the combat zone or target combat zone unit cannot attack this turn. So the earth player says, I would like to attack, and the dark player says, in response, I'm going to use my Pillory at speed 1 and say, this Underwater Spearman cannot attack this turn. Now, the earth player does have a chance to respond. If they want to place something else on the stack, they could. That thing has to be an activated ability or an event that has at least now speed 1 or higher. In order to add something on the stack, you have to have a speed that is higher than what's currently on the stack, and currently Pillory's abilities on the stack at a speed 1. The Earth player is not going to do anything though. They're already used all their resources for the turn, and we don't have any activated abilities in play. So the Earth player unfortunately chose the attack action, but now they have no unit that they can choose to legally attack with. So when we go through that combat sequence, and now the Earth player has to choose who their attacker is going to be, they have no legal option, so they don't really get to use the rest of that attack action. So that was the Earth player's action. The Earth player chose attack, and now it's back to the Dark player's action. The Dark player is going to choose the prepare action, which again is draw a card, and now the Dark player has to pass for the rest of the turn. We're back to the Earth player. The Earth player is going to choose pass. They don't really have anything left to do. To the Dark player, they have to pass because they chose prepare. So again, we have pass, pass, and we're going to go to turn 3. At the start of a new turn, each player draws a card. Everything that is currently exhausted recovers. There we go. And we calculate initiative. Right now, the Earth player has a speed of 3, so they have initiative of 3. The Dark player has a speed of 2 on their units, but they also have an initiative bonus here on Pillory. Pillory has +1 to your initiative, so the Dark player also has a 3 initiative, 2 from the Ruffian and 1 from Pillory. So each player has the same speed, same initiative, 3 and 3. And like I said before, whenever there's a tie, whoever took the initiative the prior turn maintains initiative. So in turn 2, the Dark player went first. So here for turn 3, the Dark player is going to continue playing first. So the Dark player, for their first action of the turn, they are going to, let me see what they're going to do. I think, yeah, let's do this. They're going to play a card. So we're going to turn this sideways and this sideways, and we are going to play this card. This card is called Backstab. Backstab says, if played as the first action of the turn, destroy target combat zone unit. If you control a combat zone assassin, draw a card. The Dark player doesn't currently have an assassin, so they won't get that extra card draw, but this is the first action of the turn, so they can destroy a unit in the combat zone, and we're going to try and destroy this underwater spearman. Now again, a stack is generated. The card Backstab has a speed of 0. So if the Earth player wants, they can respond to this and try to play a counter spell or something, as long as their event or activated ability has a speed of 1 or higher. You cannot place speeds of 0 on the stack at instant speed. You can only play things at 0 speed as your action. The Earth player is not going to do anything, and this underwater spearman is going to go to the dead zone. So we'll just your dead zone can be wherever you want it to be. We're going to put it off to the side there. And since this is an event, as soon as it finished doing what it does, it also goes to the dead zone. All right, so that was the Dark player's action. Let's see, for the Earth player, they are going to play a card. I'm going to play another underwater spearman. Here it is. We paid our 1 blue and 1 of anything, and we're going to play underwater spearman. This underwater spearman is a little bit different than the one we just played, but its stat line is all the same. It just has this extra text evasion 1. And what that means is if the Dark player wants to target the underwater spearman with anything, the Dark player has to pay 1 extra. Now for the Dark player's action, they're going to play a resource. We'll have them play this, oh, this is slid down quite a bit. We're going to have them play this infused air essence. So that's going to go in the resource zone upside down. For the Dark player's action, we're going to say, let's have them do attack again. So again, the Earth player says, I am going to declare an attack. The Dark player can then interrupt before the attacker is selected and choose the Pillory. So Pillory is going to respond, since it has 1 speed, and say, okay, before you can choose your attack, I'm going to exhaust Pillory and say, target unit cannot attack this turn. Now this underwater spearman has that evasion 1, so in order to do that, I have to actually pay 1 resource. 1 of anything, but you have to at least pay 1, so that's what that's for. Now the Earth player chooses a combat zone unit to attack. They don't have any legal choice, so they cannot attack anymore. Comes back to the Dark player for their action. The Dark player is going to choose to prepare and get that extra card draw. So we're going to draw a card here. And for the Earth player, they have not yet played a resource this turn, so let's have them play a resource right there. The Dark player has to pass, and the Earth player is also going to choose to pass. So we'll go to turn 4. Again, each player draws a card. Everything that is exhausted recovers. and we calculate initiative. Now this board state is the same as last turn. Each player has 3 initiative, and the dark player is going to continue playing first. The dark player is going to choose play a card as their first action. Oh, I forgot something last turn. Apologies. Last turn, the dark player, I just realized this. Last turn, the dark player played Backstab, which is a dark card, as the first action of the turn. And Hall of Shadows has an ability on it that I forgot about. When you resolve a dark card that was played as the first action of the turn, deal 1 damage to all combat zone enemy structures. So last turn, the Earth Shrine should have taken a damage. Apologies there. All right, so for turn 4, dark is going to play a card. We're going to pay 2 dark to play Backstab right here. This is the same card that was played last turn. Now, we're going to try to destroy this Underwater Spearman, which has evasion 1, so I actually have to pay 3 for it. Got to pay that extra. And I'm going to try to play Backstab. Now, the Earth player, just like last turn, has an opportunity to respond. Last turn they didn't, but this turn they're going to respond. So the Earth player can respond and put any event or any activated ability onto the stack as long as that activated ability or event has a speed of at least 1 or higher. So we're going to pay a green and a green. So we're going to exhaust 2 green and play Absorb Magic. Absorb Magic says negate target stack event. Stack means that the card hasn't actually resolved yet. It's still in this like limbo place, and we call it a stack because the cards literally form a stack while you're trying to like go through the motions of play. So this card is currently on the stack. It's stacked up on top of Underwater Spearman trying to destroy it, but the Earth player is going to play Absorb Magic to try to negate that. Absorb Magic has a speed of 6. And so the dark player can respond. It has to be an activated ability or an event, but now the current stack is at 6. So if the dark player wants to add on to this stack, their activated ability or event has to have at least a speed of 6 now. So for example, I could try to sneak in with Pillory because Pillory has an activated ability, but its speed is only 1, so it's too slow to be added on the stack here. The dark player doesn't have anything to do. So this is our current stack, and the stack is going to resolve from top down. So first, Absorb Magic is going to resolve because it's on top of the stack. We're going to negate target event. So that is going to go through. This gets negated, which means it just goes to the discard pile and does nothing. And this card has resolved. My Great Oak has an ability here. It says, when you play an Earth event for the first time each turn, this card gains 1 armor until end of turn. The Absorb Magic does count as an Earth event. So for the rest of turn 4, the Great Oak is going to have 1 armor. And that was the dark player's turn. The dark player does not get the benefit of playing a dark card as the first action because the dark card didn't resolve. This actually says when you resolve a dark card as the first action, and I didn't resolve the Backstab. It was countered by Absorb Magic. So that was the dark player's action. Now it goes back to the Earth player's action. The Earth player is going to play a resource. I'll play this one right here. The dark player is going to go. The dark player is going to choose the attack action, and now I'm going to get to show you how to defend an attack. The dark player chooses attack. The Earth player can choose to interrupt the attack with something on the stack, but they don't have anything. So now the dark player is going to declare their attacker. So the dark player is going to declare Ruffian as the attacker, exhaust the attacker to show that's attacking, and say where I intend the damage to go. The damage can go at any structure or any exhausted unit. So this Ruffian cannot directly attack this Underwater Spearman because the Underwater Spearman is not exhausted. So this Ruffian is going to directly attack the Great Oak, and we're intending to deal 3 damage. Now comes Declare Defenders, and this time the Earth player is going to defend. In order to defend, you choose a unit, and you have to be able to exhaust that unit to defend. These 2 units are now in a battle together. They're in a combat together. When damage goes to resolve, you compare each card's speed. So the Underwater Spearman has a speed of 3 and the Ruffian has a speed of 2. Whichever unit has the higher speed deals all of their damage first. So the Underwater Spearman is actually going to deal all of its damage first, even though he's the one defending. The Underwater Spearman has 2 power, so it's going to deal 2 damage to the Ruffian's 2 health, and the Ruffian will actually die. Now, when the Ruffian goes to receive its damage, there's no longer another unit in combat, so the Underwater Spearman does not receive any damage. And that's how you defend an attack. Now, I'm not going to show you a full game start to finish because I don't want this video to take like an hour. So let's kind of fast forward and give a little bit more of a complex example of a different type of combat. So let's say, pull out a different card here. let's say we had, let me actually grab this here. Let's say we had 2 underwater spearmen in combat. And let's say these 2 underwater spearmen were attacking each other. Since they both have the same speed, they would both deal damage to each other at the same time. They each have 2 power, so they would each deal 2 power to the opposing unit simultaneously. And each of these underwater spearmen actually have 3 health. They have 2 health, and they also have an additional health as long as the essence bound to that card is water, which both of them do have a water essence. So each of these, in this example, if they were fighting, they would deal their damage at the same time, and they would each take 2 damage. In this game, damage stays on from turn to turn. So that damage is going to stay there until that unit is destroyed or until some other effect heals that damage off. All right, so that's what would happen if the units had the same amount of damage. Let's do one other example. Let's put this over here. Let's say we were dealing with Underwater Spearman and Eternal Flame Soldier. Let's say that Eternal Flame Soldier had already attacked on a prior turn, and it was Underwater Spearman's turn to attack. Let's also say this pillar wasn't here, just to make things less complicated. So let's say it's the Earth player's action, and they want to attack with Underwater Spearman. Exhaust to show that you're attacking, and say where you intend your damage to go. Now, the Earth player actually has an option here. You can choose any enemy structure, or you can attack exhausted units directly. So let's say that's what this player wants to do. This player wants to directly attack Eternal Flame Soldier. Same thing, you compare their speeds. In this example, Underwater Spearman is faster. Underwater Spearman has a speed of 3, so it's going to deal 2 damage to Eternal Flame Soldier. Now, Eternal Flame Soldier did not die in this example, so Eternal Flame Soldier now deals its damage back to Underwater Spearman, which is a total of, pull this up so you can see it, a total of 3 power, which will be enough to kill the Underwater Spearman. So that's an example of how that combat would go. As you can see, I've kind of stepped out of the confines of the turn-to-turn gameplay here, and I'm just showing you some examples. I always like to try when I'm doing these learn-to-play tutorials to hit all of the main rules, as much as possible. And I'm trying to think here, just make sure I hit all of the rules before we wrap this up. I'm thinking because I think there is one other combat scenario. Yes. So let's say this. Here we go. Let's say that the Earth player is attacking, and the Earth player is attacking the enemy shrine. And let's say that Eternal Flame Soldier chooses to defend that. I'll turn these sideways, kind of how I've had them. So the Earth player chose to attack the enemy shrine, and the Dark player said, I'm going to jump in and defend that attack. We kind of skipped over this before because it never came up as relevant. The order of combat goes, you declare, I would like to attack. Then there's a stack generated. Then you choose your attacker, then you choose a defender, and then there's one more stack generated before damage is dealt. So let's say the Earth player has declared this attacker, and the Red player has declared this is a defender. During that last stack before damage is dealt, the Earth player is going to exhaust 3 and play Drown. Drown is an event with a speed of 6, which meets the criteria in order to be played at instant speed. Drown says destroy target combat zone unit whose power is less than this card's speed. And so we're going to destroy the Eternal Flame Soldier. Now we move to dealing damage. And the 2 damage from Underwater Spearman goes to its original target, the Hall of Shadows. So that was meant to demonstrate that if you do defend an attack, but that defender is removed at some point during combat, then the damage still goes through to the original intended target. Also, there's no trample damage in this game. So if ever there's a situation where, let's say, this Underwater Spearman already had 2 damage on it, these 2 were attacking, and this Earth's Eternal Flame Soldier has 3 power, all 3 damage go onto the Underwater Spearman. Even though this Underwater Spearman only needs 1 more damage to be destroyed, all 3 are going to go on here. It's not like one goes here and the other 2 go somewhere else. I know there are some games that have rules like that. All right, so towards the end of that, we definitely got into some nitty-gritty details of how the game is played, but I know from teaching this game to hundreds of people that some of those small details are always asked when we get into like the later steps of the game, and everybody always wants to know those same kind of questions. So I figured when I was making this video, I should address those like kind of weird fringy situations with the stack and with all the different types of combat. If you have any other questions about rules while you're playing, please message us. You can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can email us at flawedcardgame@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to answer any rules questions. Our rule book is currently in the making, and hopefully we'll have that posted and available online by the end of 2022. And if you're watching this video at a later date, go on our website because we might have the printed rules up already. Thank you very much for checking out our game. Don't forget the free print and play is available on our website, flawedcardgame.com, on the homepage. It's completely free to download. If you'd like to support our game right now and you don't want to wait to get to the Kickstarter, we do have a Patreon that is selling subscriptions for different tiers, and you can choose whichever tier you'd like. Some tiers include access to our live streams that we do about 4 times a month. We have interviews with the artists. We spoil artwork to our patrons first before we make them public. We also have alternate art Patreon exclusive cards that we've been doing. I think we're currently on our 3rd alternate art Patreon exclusive card. We're about to start our 4th one. So if you would like some alternate art cards that are only available through the Patreon, make sure you subscribe to that. And that's on patreon.com/flawedcardgame. And if you try out the game, you use the print and play, you get to come to one of our events and play in person, please consider jumping on Facebook or one of our social medias and leaving us a review and a comment. We'd love to hear back and hear what you think about this new trading card game. We've been working on it for so long. My husband and I are both avid trading card gamers. We've played card games for 20 years, and we're really, hoping to create a trading card game that is, by gamers, for gamers. Our goal has always been just to make a game that we love to play. We want the rules to really show like the thoughtful design that we've spent years making sure everything is well balanced and well thought out. And we want to give the players something that is really customizable and really can be their own, which we think we've done a good job with our clear cards and the cardboard cards. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you love Flawed as much as I do. Bye.